What is the true source of your peace and security? You fool, your life will be demanded from you tonight. Imagine for a moment you've been working hard for years, building your career, accumulating wealth, securing your future. You've managed to get a great house, your dream car, and a comfortable lifestyle. But despite all of your success, you feel restless. Something just doesn't seem right. You've checked all the boxes, yet something is missing. This feeling, strangely enough, is something many of us can relate to. We chase after success, wealth, and status, believing they will bring us ultimate happiness and fulfillment. But what happens when we get everything we've ever wanted? Are we truly satisfied, or do we end up feeling empty? This brings us to a famous story from the Bible, the parable of the rich fool, Luke 12:13-21. In this parable, Jesus tells us the story of a man who, much like the one we just imagined, had everything he could ever want. But what Jesus reveals to us is the sobering truth about the dangers of hoarding wealth and making it the center of our lives. The parable, a rich man's false security. The parable begins with a man who has an abundant harvest, so much so that he doesn't know what to do with it. His barns are full, and he decides to tear them down and build even bigger ones. He thinks to himself, I have enough wealth for many years to come. I'll take life easy, eat, drink, and be merry. Luke 12:19. Now on the surface, there doesn't seem to be anything wrong with this, right? The man has worked hard, and now he's reaping the rewards. He's set for life, or so he thinks. But here's where the story takes a dramatic twist. But God said to him, You fool, this very night your life will be demanded from you. Then who will get what you have prepared for yourself? Luke 12:20. Suddenly, the man's wealth and security become meaningless. His material possessions can't save him, and all of his plans for a carefree life crumble in an instant. The story ends with a powerful warning. This is how it will be with whoever stores up things for themselves, but is not rich toward God. Luke 12:21. What was the problem with the rich fool? At first glance, the rich fool seems like a success story. After all, he's done everything society tells us to do. He's worked hard, built wealth, and planned for his future. What's the issue? The problem wasn't that the man had wealth, it was that he trusted in it and believed it was all he needed. His wealth had become his security, his comfort, and his identity. He thought that by accumulating more, he could secure his happiness and peace of mind. But this is where Jesus wants us to pay attention. In his pursuit of wealth, the rich fool had forgotten God. He didn't acknowledge the one who gave him the ability to work, to earn, and to have all the things he enjoyed. Instead, he saw himself as the source of his success and believed that his wealth would be his everlasting safety net. This is why Jesus calls him a fool. Not because he was a bad person, but because he was living in false security. He was building his life on things that could never truly satisfy or save him. The illusion of security and wealth, by its very nature, promises security. If we just had more money, we could live without worry, right? But how many times have we seen that money doesn't actually guarantee peace of mind? In fact, wealth often brings a different set of worries: how to protect it, how to grow it, how to avoid losing it. And when wealth becomes our focus, we miss out on the things that matter most: relationships, personal growth, and our relationship with God. It's easy to think that if we had more, life would be better. But Jesus flips this mindset on its head. The rich fool's life was consumed by his possessions, but he missed the ultimate purpose of life: to live in relationship with God and to use whatever resources we have to build his kingdom. What good is it for someone to gain the whole world, yet forfeit their soul? Mark 8:36. This question challenges us all to think about where we are placing our hope. Are we trying to find meaning in wealth, status, or security? Or are we placing our hope in something eternal, something that can never be taken away? Lessons from the parable. The first lesson we can learn from this parable is that wealth, no matter how much we accumulate, is temporary. It is fleeting and ultimately out of our control. The rich fool had no idea that his life would be demanded of him that very night. His wealth didn't save him, nor did it bring him peace. As Jesus says, we should store up treasures in heaven. Matthew 6:19-21, where moth and rust cannot destroy, and thieves cannot steal. The things of this world are temporary. But the things of God, like love, faith, hope, and good deeds, are eternal. When we focus on eternal matters, we find fulfillment that transcends material wealth. 2. The danger of self-sufficiency. The rich fool was blinded by his own self-sufficiency. He thought his wealth was all he needed to live a happy, secure life. But true security comes from being in a right relationship with God. He is the one who gives us the ability to work, to earn, and to enjoy the good things in life. When we rely solely on our own strength and wealth, we place ourselves at the center of our lives. But when we recognize that God is our ultimate provider, we acknowledge that everything we have is a gift from Him. 3. We can't take it with us. No matter how much wealth we accumulate, we can't take it with us when we die. The rich fool had no control over when his life would end. Similarly, we have no control over the future. What we can control is how we use the resources God has given us today. Are we using our time, talents, and wealth to build His kingdom, to bless others, and to honor Him? It is more blessed to give than to receive. Acts 20:35. Generosity is a key part of living a fulfilled life. Rather than hoarding wealth, we are called to share with others, to bless the poor, and to invest in things that have eternal value. How to apply the parable to our lives. Now that we've reflected on the story, let's consider how this parable applies to our lives today. We live in a world that constantly tells us that happiness and security come from accumulating more wealth, possessions, and status. But Jesus warns us that this is a lie. True peace and fulfillment come from knowing God and living according to His will. 1. Evaluate your priorities. Take a moment to reflect on your own life. Are you putting your trust in your wealth or your possessions? Are you constantly striving for more, thinking that once you reach a certain financial goal, you'll finally be at peace? Jesus challenges us to evaluate our priorities and ask ourselves what truly matters. Is it our relationship with God, our family, and our community? Or is it the pursuit of material wealth and success? 2. Live generously. Generosity is a key part of living out this parable. Rather than hoarding wealth for ourselves, we are called to be generous with what we have. This doesn't necessarily mean giving away all our possessions, but it does mean recognizing that everything we have is a gift from God and should be used for His glory. Look for opportunities to bless others, whether it's through financial support, giving your time, or sharing your talents. The more we give, the more we align our hearts with God's heart, and the more we find joy in the things that truly matter. 3. Focus on the eternal. Finally, remember that true fulfillment and security come from focusing on the eternal, not the temporary. Jesus encourages us to seek first the kingdom of God, and all other things will be added to us. Matthew 6:33. When we invest in things that have eternal value, love, kindness, faith, generosity, and service, we experience a deeper kind of peace that wealth cannot provide. Conclusion: living with an eternal perspective. As we wrap up this reflection on the parable of the rich fool, let's remember that wealth in itself is not bad. But when we make it the center of our lives, it leads us astray. Jesus calls us to shift our focus from the temporary to the eternal, from hoarding wealth to investing in His kingdom. The next time you find yourself striving for more, ask yourself, what's the point of it all? Are you truly seeking peace and security in God, or are you chasing after things that will ultimately fade away? The choice is ours. And just like the rich fool, the question remains, how will we live?